Set a timer for 33 minutes and 33 seconds.
Your timer is set for 33 minutes and 33 seconds.
It is officially hoodie weather. I will now be wearing a hoodie in every video for the next 4 months. But underneath, the power of the Atari. Okay, as you probably know, I make music and I also run Home Studio Corner, which is my full-time gig. That's how I make my money. Being an entrepreneur, I read lots of books and watch lots of videos and listen to lots of seminars all about business. And there's one that I listened to recently. It was a seminar I purchased the recordings to, and it was from a famous copywriter. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, a copywriter is just someone who, typically they're talking about people from a few decades back who would write out these sales letters, brochures, promo material that companies would send in the mail to sell things. And the ones who were very good became pretty famous because if you were good at it, you made money for the companies that you worked for and started to get a reputation for yourself. One of these guys is named Gene Schwartz. And he didn't give a lot of seminars, but there was this one that I have the recordings for. And at the very beginning of the seminar, you're expecting him to talk about headlines or the most persuasive words to use or something along those lines. And he says that his most important productivity tool for all the work that he does was a kitchen timer. And he holds up this, like one of those little digital beep, 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 beep timers that you can set the time for. And he said that was his most valuable tool, and he took it with him everywhere. Stick with me, this will apply to your mixes. So the premise was he takes a timer and he sets it to 33 minutes and 33 seconds. And that's when he starts working. And the idea was he sits at his desk, and while the timer is running, he can only do one of two things. He can either just sit there and drink his coffee, or he can work on whatever project copy that he was writing at the moment. That's it. He can't get up, he can't make a phone call, he can't do anything else but work on the project or just sit there. So I decided to try it, and it turned out to be a really, really cool thing. The reason is, when you're working on anything really, whether it's just your day job or a mix or anything in between, there are kind of two ways you can go on a pendulum, right? We're wanting to stay kind of here in the middle, but we tend to swing one way or the other. One way is we're super distracted. You're working on email for work, but Facebook is notifying you, you're getting text messages, you've got the TV on, and you're listening to a YouTube video in the background. It takes you 10 times as long to do anything because you've got so many different inputs and you're so distracted. The other side is you get so focused and you're kind of in the flow to the exclusion of everything else. And while that is a good place to be and can be really productive, when it comes to mixing, that side of the things can be almost counterproductive. Here's what I'm talking about. I got this comment recently from Luc Prefontaine. He said, there's a world-class studio in my area that did The Police, Rush, The Cult, etc. Word was that the mix engineer would work no more than 20 minutes at a time. Then he would go out to the front desk to chat with the girls and then go back to mixing. The reason, as you probably guessed, was when you spend too much time mixing and being into it, you lose sense of what you're hearing and your ears adapt and you lose kind of the perspective of what's going on. And that is absolutely true. And so instead of just taking my word for it, or just like me when I heard the seminar about the silly 33-minute timer, I didn't just take his word for it either. I tried it. And I found myself being more productive when I did it. And the idea was you set the timer, and if, let's say in a mixing context, you set the timer and for 33 minutes, all you're doing is mixing. Then when the timer goes off, you stop. Even if you're in the middle of moving an EQ, you stop and you get up and go do something else. And it could be just for a few minutes. For me, I did something for like 11 minutes. So it was the full cycle was about 45 minutes. Then I would go back and set another timer for 33 minutes and 33 seconds and go back to mixing. And what I found was, if you've ever experienced this in the past, you mix a song, maybe you spend all day on it and you feel really good about it. The next day you come back and listen and it's awful. And you wonder, why did I think this was so good yesterday? It's because our ears are little jerks, and they can become accustomed to what we're listening to. Take, for example, you're in a crowd, and it's, let's say, a football game, and it's really loud, there's a lot of people around and lots of sounds, and then the person you're with wants to tell you something. So you have the ability to block out all the sounds around the stadium and just hone in on what she's saying. Well, our ears do that in the studio as well. You may be listening, and there may be some really obvious problems in the mix. Maybe the guitars are really muddy and the drums are way too loud, but for some reason you've just been listening to the vocal and the piano, and that's all you're really listening to, and you kind of ignore everything else. That's a problem, because the problems in the mix almost become invisible to you, and you just don't hear them. One way to fix that is to regularly step back from the mix and come back into it. Now, the idea of stepping back every 33 minutes from the mix might seem ridiculous to you, but try it. What you'll find is, even just like when I do it, I'll go upstairs and say hey to Pam and maybe make a cup of tea or something. Then I'll come back down, and whatever I was working on, I have a little bit more of a sense of reality. I haven't been locked into this song for 3 hours and I've lost all perspective. It helps me kind of step away and come back with fresh ears. It's similar to what happens when you use reference tracks, but I think this is even more helpful because it allows you to have some perspective. Now, I found this 33-minute thing to work really well with really anything that I do, whether it's making a video or working on emails or working on a mix or recording something. Knowing that I've just got to stay focused for that 33 minutes really helps me to stay focused. And then knowing that I've got a break and I can take 10 minutes to watch a funny YouTube video in between my 33-minute segments has actually helped me spend more time working on the stuff that matters and less time wandering off into distractions. So, here's my homework for you if you're brave. Leave a comment below, let me know you're gonna try it. Go try this, whether it's on a mix or a recording session or some work thing that you've got to do. Try the 33-minute trick and see how it works for you. I think it's very possible it could be a game changer. Speaking of game changers, one of my favorite things that I've done this year was putting out a free guide called the 5-Step Mix Guide. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, it's free. Go to 5stepmix.com. It walks you through the 5 phases of the mix and my process for mixing that allows me to work quickly through the mix, but also to make it sound good and to know when I'm finished. If any of those are struggles for you, this guide is perfect for you. Go to 5stepmix.com and check it out. It's absolutely free. See you later.
No time.